my experience had been that the best idea, if you want to make 10 extra money, is you buy something that everybody in the world needs, nobody in the world can stop, and almost nobody understands. Okay, so in 2010, that was Amazon, or that was Apple, or that was Facebook, or Google. These are all dominant digital networks that everybody in the world needed, that nobody could stop. But if you'd ask the typical mainstream investor, is this a good investment? They would all say, oh, it's very scary, it's overvalued, Amazon doesn't make money, you know.
What if you could own a piece of digital gold that's more valuable than the world's most precious metal? Imagine a future where money transcends borders and governments, a digital revolution that could shake the foundations of traditional finance. That's the vision of Michael Saylor, the visionary CEO of MicroStrategy, who has embarked on a mission to unlock the true potential of Bitcoin. In his latest explosive interview, Saylor drops bombshell predictions about Bitcoin's trajectory over the next decade, exposing a paradigm shift that could turn the financial world upside down. He boldly proclaims Bitcoin as the Facebook of money, a global network that could disrupt the way we store, transfer, and perceive value itself. But that's just the beginning. Brace yourself as Saylor unveils a mind-blowing perspective that will challenge everything you thought you knew about money, property, and long-term investing. Whether you're a Bitcoin believer or a skeptic, this is a must-watch interview that will leave you questioning the status quo and contemplating the boundless potential of digital assets. So buckle up and get ready to witness the future unfold as we present exclusive clips from Michael Saylor's latest interview that could forever change your perception of Bitcoin and the digital economy.
So the conventional wisdom was against these big tech companies. But I took the opposite view, and I had made a lot of money, and I'd written a book about it, and my view was Apple was going to be the most valuable company in the world because no company in the history of the world could ship a product to 1 billion people overnight for a nickel. But Apple can.
Yeah.
And so it's the most valuable company in the world because it's the most valuable company that's ever existed in the world. There's a reason for it. And so in 2020, I needed to figure out what's the next thing. And what I began to think was, wouldn't it be great if I could take gold, but make it digital gold? And wouldn't it be great if there was a Facebook for money? You know, if I showed up to Facebook and I was a normal person, I have 10 friends. But when a celebrity shows up to Facebook with 100 million followers, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what if there was a Facebook for money? And what if billion-dollar corporations showed up with $1 billion and put it on the network? And so I saw Bitcoin was Facebook for money. It's gold without the defects of gold, but it's not the digital transformation of information. It's the digital transformation of money or capital or property. And that's a very profound difference. And I thought that it was just the right thing for us at the right time. We needed something like that on our balance sheet. If Warren Buffett said, I'm going to buy $9 billion of Bitcoin every year for the next 4 years, starting on April 20th. That's what the halving is. You can look at it as it's a natural demand for $35 million worth of Bitcoin a day, every day for the next 4 years. Or you could say, Bitcoin is a market where there's $18 billion of supply available, and there's a demand that's more than that, but in a couple of days, there won't be 18 billion in supply, there'll be 9 billion in supply.
Yeah.
So if I told you I was going to cut the production of oil in half in 2 weeks, you would think the price would go up.
Yes.
And so that's the significance of the halving. There's not going to be any more than the 450 Bitcoin available from natural sellers. The natural buyers are people that want to store their life savings. They want a store of value, and they're wanting to save their capital. And when they buy, they'll buy and hold it for a decade. Maybe they'll hold it forever, but they'll hold it for a long, long time. And a lot of them are coming into the market because of the approval of these spot ETFs right now. So they're the buyers, the miners are the sellers. The demand is going to increase, the supply is going to decrease. The price will have to adjust to find marginal sellers that want to sell at a higher price. I actually think that if Warren Buffett had 100 hours to consider Bitcoin, and if he wasn't in his 90s, if he was in his 60s, he probably would spend the time to learn it, and he'd be a big Bitcoin believer. Because Warren Buffett is an adherent of the buy and hold strategy, the HODL. He's probably the most famous hodler of his generation. He bought Coca-Cola and he still owns the stock. He would buy companies and hold them for 30 years. He said he's very famous for this phrase, if I wouldn't hold it for 10 years, you shouldn't hold it for 10 minutes. And that's the Bitcoin idea too. Buy something you're going to hold for 10 years. I think that people that that get asked about Bitcoin but have only spent an hour studying it or a few minutes, they just misunderstand it. And because they misunderstand it, they're goaded to criticize it or dismiss it out of hand just because they misunderstand it. Most people that are skeptics or cynics, they think it's a currency that's going to replace the dollar and replace the banking system or replace, governments. And on that basis, or they think or they confuse it with crypto tokens that are securities. And they either think it's a scam or they think it's a threat to the dollar. If you study it deeper, you realize it's property. And once you think of it as it's a digital building or it's digital property, I'm buying it instead of buying an apartment to rent out as retirement income, or I'm buying it instead of buying a building, or I'm buying it instead of buying an acre of land because I want to store my savings for 30